Um, so I was just down in the changing room, and I was here all day yesterday on retreat, and we had a power outage in my area, so I did not see any media or news last night, and I was just told there was a shooting last evening. Is that correct? Everybody knows about this. The talk that I had planned to give. Because I know nothing about, thank you for letting me know that that's part of what's in our collective space today. I can't speak to it. I won't try to speak to it because I don't know enough to do that. And I just want to acknowledge the fact that that's part of the collective space we're sitting in. And it kind of makes sense to me to sit with that for a moment. Perhaps all of us. And then I'll shift gears and I will give the talk that I plan to give today. That's my best offering to you. But what seems like good practice perhaps is to sit for just a minute together. And I will invite you to close your eyes. And I will invite you to bring some awareness to the physicality that presents itself as your body, to notice your connection this morning to the stillness of the earth. I hope you are aware of how much you intrinsically trust it to hold you. I'll invite you to bring up into your awareness the sensations and the movement of your breathing. Maybe notice how you trust that that next inhale will be right on time. Our experience in human bodies is rife with conflict and suffering, greed and violence. That's a truth that we face every time we sit. It's a truth that the core of our Buddhist tradition reminds us of. And it also reminds us of our capacity to not only know that truth, and allow ourselves to feel that truth, but to meet that truth with our courage, our compassion, our wisdom, our tradition reminds us over and over that the painful dimensions, the violent, difficult, constricted, hurt, screaming dimensions of our human lives can be held by a container much, much larger And that is the container that we call awakening, awareness, enlightenment. And it's as simple as your relationship, your meeting, your fear, your anger, your confusion, with kindness and understanding. As I sit, I am aware that there is suffering. As I sit, I vow to meet that suffering with compassion and wisdom. And just take a few more breaths together. All right. I thank you for doing it with me. Thank you for doing that. I'm going to go home and watch the news. I'm sure all sorts of things are going to show up in this heart. So it is wonderful to be here. I will try to shift gears here a little bit. I see a lot of faces in the Zendo today that I saw yesterday. We had a wonderful retreat here, and it's good to see some of the folks that spent a lot of time in this room breathing and sitting yesterday. And I'm going to extend just a little tiny bit something we talked about yesterday into today. And yesterday we talked a little bit about the beginning of the memorial echo we do here at Zen Center. And I will not revisit it, but I will summarize, sum it up as saying we were talking about the words earnest and consideration, because the memorial echo starts with earnestly consider. And then it talks about life and death, the coming and going of life and death. And it uses very large metaphors, summer and winter, waves in the water disappearing into the great ocean, bolts of lightning striking through the empty sky. These are really large metaphors that we're invited to consider with earnestness. And we talked a little bit about Zazen being essentially a formal practice of consideration. To consider is to behold. Consider the great. Oh, I'm being invited to think great. Being invited to engage with the great, maybe with a little beginner's mind beyond my normal preconceptions of the great. Consider the great. Sounds very sort of Greek or something. And then we realize, well, consider is also at the heart of the word consideration. And we understand that consideration is also just to behold something. But there's a quality that's being invited in. She met my grief with such consideration. He's such a considerate soul. You can kind of feel the feeling that's in that. There's a quality, right? There's a heart quality to consideration. To be considerate. So to earnestly consider, we talked about that as being zazen. And in the echo, the things we're invited to earnestly consider are life and death, the biggest possible things. And we're using really, really large metaphors to describe what they are. Summer and winter, coming and going seasons and waves disappearing into the ocean. So today I want to extend earnest consideration because it's cool. That's what we do here. Right? Minnesota Earnest Consideration Center. I think they're having a board meeting today. Maybe that's what they're discussing. Do we or do we not change our name formally? What I want to extend it into is the smallest pasture instead of the largest pasture of birth and death and summer and winter and bolts of lightning into the empty sky. I want to bring it all the way down to the most ordinary things. That's the talk that I wrote. We'll see what comes out of my mouth. We know in this tradition that to say something is ordinary is already a label, and I'm aware of that. It's a thing that we play with when we talk about relative and absolute. And I know that our tradition teaches us there's actually no such thing as an ordinary object, that anything seen deeply is understood to be sacred or whole or transcendent of itself, and that anything disregarded or unseen, anything seen shallowly, becomes ordinary, mundane. I understand. That's how our tradition talks about this. But I am going to use the word ordinary today in the way that we're used to thinking about it. Ordinary meaning your shoes, your watch, your sunglasses, the bag of chips you got at the convenience store, ordinary objects, rocks, that kind of stuff. We had a practice period here a long time ago. I'm looking at that because he and I led this. It's on interconnectedness, impermanence, 10 years maybe. I don't know. He's giving me the nod that says that's probably about right. He's earnestly considering the possibility that it was 10 years ago. We had a wonderful time doing that, and one of the things we had people do, this was Ben's idea, actually, was we had people, if I remember right, write down like 3 or 4 things you purchased in the past couple of days, just whatever, anything, doesn't matter what it is, just the most ordinary thing, just something you purchased in the last few days, and then please make a list of 10 things that that object that you bought depends upon. Remember that? That was cool. Somebody had purchased an iPhone. Somebody else bought a bag of potato chips. Somebody bought a new pair of shoes. Somebody filled their tank with gas, right? Most ordinary things. And what we found was the most ordinary thing depended on, oh my God, a whole bunch of things. Systems of being, ecosystems, right? Resources that were connected to people, that were connected to time. And suddenly the thing you're holding in your hand, the bag of chips, is like, oh my God, this is international trade. This is race relations, right? There's money here. There's power here. There's grains here, which means there's water here, which means there's earth here, which means there's sky here. And you start realizing, oh, and the invitation, there was a bunch of places we took it, but was look deeply into the ordinary object to see not only its connection, right? Interconnectedness is our theme, its connection to the larger world. But to see what comes up inside of us when we realize that the object that we are holding is connected to shipping and fossil fuels and relationships and impermanence and grains and sky, and all of a sudden there's a huge amount happening in our field of awareness. Does that make sense? We're earnestly considering that there's a lot going on here in whatever the object is. Something we did a long time ago. So when we work with objects, mindfulness of objects and working with objects is something that I'm really drawn to, and I don't know why, but for some reason practice really likes to show up for Bussho as, how are you treating your cup? I think because it oftentimes takes me to these places of wonder, awareness of impermanence, right? This cup is only in the shape that it's in right now, really. A little while ago, this wasn't a cup. And a little while from now, it won't be. right? I'm in relationship with a very temporary shape. Right? That new iPhone that I'm so excited about, it's a temporary shape. It wasn't a little while ago, and it won't be very, very soon from now. Right? So wonder, I get a sense of wonder. I get an acute sense of impermanence. I certainly get an awareness of interconnectedness. And so I love working with objects. I really do. I do it all the time. During Zazen this morning, I was looking at the slats in our new floor here, right? This floor still counts as new, isn't it? Because it's still, I'm looking at it, it's like, this still feels new, right? Like, I'm still making the transition to, this is like the real sendo, right? Because over there, where we sat for, anyway. And going, well, so it's very reasonable, or at least possible, that each one of those slats came from a different tree. So at least possible, had a different life, experienced the cold and the warmth differently. It's cut down at a different time. Maybe it traveled over water, maybe it traveled over land, maybe it was dragged by horses. I don't know. But like, holy macaroni, there's a lot going on there. Wow. It really fills me with an intimacy to my life and to other lives. It really sustains my practice. So I like talking about objects and mindfulness. And I read sometime before I came to Minnesota Zen Center a long time ago, something, and I'll get it wrong. There's probably an actual quote here that I don't know. One of my Jewish friends said, oh yeah, I was looking for a personal relationship once with a rabbi. I really wanted to find a teacher. I was like, oh, I didn't know that was a tradition that you could have a one-to-one like relationship with. I wasn't really aware that was. Yeah. My grandma told me that, like, if I'm looking to find who the good rabbi is going to be, I should watch how she ties her shoes. That was like grandma's advice. And I'm like, I have a feeling that they were probably quoting something, but I went, that sounds like such a Zen thing. Doesn't that sound like a Zen thing? Like, oh, his mastery of the Diamond Sutra is unsurpassed. Yeah, but did you see the way he kicked off his shoes? What a noob. Kids today, right? And so I had that idea in my head when I came here, and Tim at one point gave a talk about how, and of course I'm going to get it wrong, I wish you were here to correct me, he's upstairs, about how he had a dramatic experience. He had a little Kensho experience, or a big Kensho experience perhaps, during a session, and brought it to Suzuki, his teacher. It's almost like, I found the Easter egg. Right, which is cool. That's very cool. And Suzuki's response was, "Oh, that's nice. Now take care of your shoes," because he had kicked off his flip-flops. He had carelessly kicked off his flip-flops on the way into the interview with the great Zen teacher to tell him about his great enlightenment experience. He kicked off his flip-flops. So Suzuki went right to, I noticed the way that you treat ordinary objects. Such a great story. It's like seriously one of my very favorite stories. Like, yeah, good for you. Take care of your shoes. Like, God, if that isn't Soto Zen, man, I don't know what is. All right. So I'm going to start us today with a poem called The Patience of Ordinary Things. This is by a poet named Pat Schneider. It is a kind of love, is it not? How the cup holds the tea, how the chair stands sturdy and foursquare, how the floor receives the bottoms of shoes or toes, how soles of feet go where they're supposed to be. I've been thinking about the patience of ordinary things, how clothes wait respectfully in closets, and soap dries quietly in the dish, and towels drink the wet from the skin of my back. And the lovely repetition of stairs. And what is more generous than a window? That's it. It knocks me out. It knocks me out. I'm like, man, I'll read it again because it's short. The Patience of Ordinary Things by Pat Schneider. It is a kind of love, is it not? How the cup holds the tea. How the chair stands sturdy and foursquare. How the floor receives the bottoms of shoes or toes. How the soles of feet know where they're supposed to be. I've been thinking about the patience of ordinary things. How clothes wait respectfully in closets, and soap dries quietly in the dish, and towels drink the wet from the skin of the back. And the lovely repetition of stairs. And what is more generous than a window? So those of us who have practiced for a while, oftentimes, I just hear this oftentimes, have the experience, especially during longer retreats, of noticing how the ordinary world just sort of rises up out of itself almost, and how ordinary objects kind of glow. I'm not talking about woo-woo. I'm not talking about hallucination or something. I'm just using poetic words to try to describe, day 4 of session, when somebody puts white rice in your bowl, and suddenly it's alive. The rice is alive, the bowl is alive, the server's alive, the spoon they're using is alive, you as the recipient's alive, the meal board you're setting it on is alive, you still, all of this is included, all of it matters. I am this, it is only this happening, right? And there's nothing ordinary anymore. All of it was patient, all of it was sacred, all of it was waiting to be met. And then the meeting happens. And in our tradition, we call that moment empty. We call that moment of meeting empty because the objectness and the separateness of the things disappears for a moment. Right? Does that make sense? It's okay if it doesn't. And it's full. It's funny we use the word empty. Right? Emptiness is fullness. In our tradition, everything is just full, alive, and it's happening. There's not obstruction. It's just movement. It's just flow there. It's a moment of generosity. And it's quiet, and it's ordinary, and it's infinitely patient. And so one of the things that's occurred to me over the years is, I wonder if the bowl was waiting for me to recognize it. Like I've used that bowl for, let's say, 10 years now on retreats, those same Oryogi bowls, 10 years now on retreats. It's been filled many, many times with many, many different things. But until now, I didn't actually see it. I wonder if it was waiting for me. Now I know this is me making this up. I'm projecting qualities, the patience of ordinary things. I understand that's projection. Ordinary things do not have patience. This is me. This is Bussho, right? Just in contact with Bussho, that's all that's actually happening. It's his own patience, right? But for some reason, thinking about it that way helps me crack open the part of my heart that takes away the objectness of the bowl and opens up the possibility that it's actually something larger than. So this kind of experience happens to me a lot. Very often in retreat, like we had yesterday. I was visiting people in what we call practice meetings here. That's part of our tradition. For those of you who are a little newer during retreats, if you wish, you can take time away from the Zendo to go talk to one of the teachers, the person who's leading the retreat, for a few minutes, right? Just to get a little support or talk about an experience or ask a question. And I was meeting people up on the 3rd floor because it has air conditioning. People were very motivated to see me yesterday. And I walked out of here feeling like, man, if I got the stuff, do you see the line of people to see? Oh, my wisdom, just for them to bask in it for a few minutes, probably. And then I went, oh, they were just in line to be in the air conditioning for 10 minutes. That's what they wanted to bask in. It's 70 degrees. I'm teasing myself now. At the end of a meeting with the people on Zoom, I was done with the Lahn. So getting laptop out, I'm unplugging the cord and I'm winding the cord. You know, hey, do you wind it around here? And I had that experience of, oh, I wonder if you've been waiting for me. This cord just curled up in a corner. It's been picked up and sat down hundreds of times. But for about 3 seconds, it's like, oh, you're the cord. You're connected. I could make a list of 10 things. I could make a list of 100 things it's connected to. I understand that. It's interdependent on the whole universe. I understand that. It's not an ordinary object. There is no ordinary object. I understand that. And as I was just playing it for those 3 seconds, it's like, oh, you've been supporting my life for the past hour. I wouldn't have been able to meet, right, with Leah in South Dakota without you. You know what I'm talking about, right? Just those moments where you're like, oh, right? It's easier for me to go to this place that I'm describing when I'm holding grandmother's teacup. This was great grandma's teacup. She took it over from Ireland. It was the only thing she was allowed to take with her. Or this is the pocket watch that Teddy Roosevelt stole. And it was in his museum, and then it was stolen from his museum. Do you guys hear about that? And then it was found again, and now it's back in the museum. Ooh, it was Teddy Roosevelt. How do I feel about that? What's his legacy? Is he a good guy or a bad guy? Oh, do I like the pocket watch? Do we sell it? Oh no, it's complicated, right? But it's easy for me to go to that. Oh, this thing has magical qualities because it in those big settings, right? Right? This isn't just Joanne Fabrics. This is part of a rock city. And it was owned by Cotty. You can feel what we do, right? A month ago, I was in Houston visiting the Johnson Space Center. A whole bunch of reasons why I won't go into. Too complicated of a story. And we got to take a little tram out to Mission Control. The Mission Control. For some people, that would be, that's the most boring 2 hours of my life. I took a tram into a completely nondescript building to see a completely nondescript room full of, guess what, chairs and computer monitors. I've got those at home. This is not interesting. And a lot of people on the tour with me were very clearly, oh, are you kidding me? I can't believe my dad are making me do this, right? I'm there with tears in my eyes, right? Like no flash photography. It was like being in church. It was like going to visit relics, right? Like this is Saint Teresa's forearm, and you get to look at it through the glass, but you are not going to take a picture because this is Mission Control. And I was just, oh, I can't believe it's like going to church for me, right? Because of how I was raised, because of how I was taught to regard the space program and all it represented, and blah 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 blah. But what's not lost on me is these are the most ordinary objects in the world. They actually put back in the room ashtrays, right? Binders. This is 3-ring binders, tabs, the chairs, old used upholstery from 1960s, right? And suddenly I'm looking at it through plexiglass, and these are not ordinary objects, right? And we're lining up to behold them. Just like I did with St. Teresa. If you want to see St. Teresa's hand, they got it in Avila, baby. You can't take a flash photography of it, but it's there. And we have that in our tradition too. Buddhist relics, Google it. We don't do it so much in Zen, although there are a few monks who have been, another story for another day. It gets grisly quick. If you're into that kind of stuff, he's going to die in Zazen, and then we're going to mummify him there and cover him and stuff. We'll keep doing Zazen for all eternity. I gotta go weird here. And religion is weird. Everything we're riffing on is just how we behold objects and the meaning that we make. So I'll shift gears, because I gotta wrap up here in a minute. What's on your flyer today? And for those of you on Zoom, you do not have the flyer in front of you for the brochure today, but I encourage you to Google, if you will, not now, but later. Kristen Maya Peterson, Maya is spelled M-A-I-J-A. Kristen Maya Peterson is an artist. And the piece we're looking at a little picture of is a piece called I Will Wait Forever. And if you Google it, you'll find it. It's on the University of Minnesota Landscape Arboretum website. It's part of an art display. So I went to this art exhibit at the Minnesota Arboretum. This was probably 2 years ago. And this artist's work was being displayed, Kristen Maya Peterson. And the description of the exhibit that drew me said, artist Kristen Peterson's work explores the question of beauty in the natural world, asking us what is considered beautiful and what is not. Witness her stunning environmental artwork, including 24 images of nature, vividly rendered in watercolor and graphite pencil, inviting viewers to go into the world in search of awe and to notice and cultivate the natural spaces and biodiversity just outside their own front doors. So the piece that really caught my eye is the one that I had Kim very kindly print on your program this morning. The name of that piece is I Will Wait Forever. And the image you have in front of you there is about 2 inches by 1.5 inches. And in real life, it was about 6 feet across by about 5 feet high. It was. But the image, and mine's in black and white, but I'll at least hold it up to the camera for you Zoom folks. Just a rock. That's it. It's the most ordinary thing in the world. This is a rock surrounded by weeds in a yard. That's it. Rock, weeds. And so she wrote, you know how artists will have a little statement by each piece sometimes? Early in spring, I found this stone, nestled just beyond the backyard of our townhome rental, within the bounds of a wetland protected area. The rock looked as if it were in child's pose. For you yoga practitioners, right? It looked as if it were in child's pose, waiting there for a long time. Grasses old and newly sprouting, hugging the stone. Next to it, a single leaf holding vigil. Time runs differently in nature. It's patient and circular, not bound by hours or schedules. If this stone could talk, it would ask you to be present, to find stillness, to take your time. It will wait for you forever. So there's my Oreo bowl, and there's Tim's flip-flops. And the ashtray, mission control. There's the teacup. I so appreciate this practice's capacity to bring us to moments of such singular apprehension. This woman, I don't know if she's a Zen practitioner, it doesn't matter. But I so appreciate the clarity of her heart to recognize that's the stone. It would have taken her months to paint this gigantic canvas with pencil, ink, and color. It's very, very easy for me to understand, wow, you must have been really devoted to seeing in order to spend that amount of time. You see, I'm measuring it in time and energy, right? Muscle movements and intention. This is the artist. That's a human quality, and as a human, I can recognize that. and admire it. Wow. To take the time to express it. That's beautiful. That's what artists do. But at the same time, the moment of apprehension, when she apprehended it, you understand what I mean by apprehend, right? Not apprehensive, the feeling, just to the moment when the object arises in consciousness and there's a moment of recognition, this moment of emptiness. We just see it. But that was the art. That was the thing that happened. That was her heart going, oh, you've been waiting for me. I finally saw you. You were a stone. Right? There's brand new grass there. There's dead grass there. There are leaves there. This is my life. This is everything right here. I see it. The second step is her deciding, oh, I wonder, because she's an artist and she thinks that. That's awesome, right? Somebody recognized this piece of clay and said, oh, I wonder if maybe, perhaps, a cup is waiting to happen, right? And they did that. But as practitioners, this door that's always opening in front of us to recognize awe and wonder and connection, it's humbling. I think the reason I'm mentioning it today and the connection that I see to what happened last night, I've been waiting for that to show up, and then I'll shut up, I promise. I'm like, there's going to be a connection to the shooting. There's going to have to be. Because there always is, right? There's a connection between everything and everything. Is what if I was patient enough? What if I was just still enough? That the patience of ordinary things and the patience of ordinary emotions and the patience of ordinary thoughts are not different things. How many times have I felt angry? More times than I can count. How many times have I thought, boy, I wish something bad would happen to that guy? More times than I can count, because I'm a human being. What if that moment had shown up and I said, I see you, I feel you, I know what you are. I understand how you came to be. I am here to care for you. I am here to understand, and I am here to make a choice. That feels like correct relationship. And if that had happened in the heart and in the mind of whoever was holding the gun, you can imagine history changing. Because the patience of ordinary things, the patience of ordinary moments, ordinary feelings, ordinary thoughts doesn't really exist for us. There isn't ordinary. There really isn't. The fact that we had people list 10 things upon which that iPhone depended can change their relationship with iPhone. The 10 things upon which my anger, my sadness, my despair depend can help me change my relationship with my sadness or my anger or my despair. If I don't see that, I can act from those places and now know. Does that make sense? And suddenly I'm kicking off my shower shoes and I'm throwing away the wrapper because it doesn't matter to me anymore. You are not me and you are less important to me. There, you're an ordinary rock. Go back to where you were, taking down the painting. No more reverence, no more seeing, no more devotion, no more compassion, no more connection. I'm alone, I am right, I am good, I am better. I don't know about you guys, but I lived there a lot. Everybody that I meet with lives there a lot. Every story I hear is about people who live there a lot. It's called the first noble truth. I understand it. I get it. So, wow, are we invited into a big pasture when we sit down, aren't we? To just sit down and cross your legs for even 5 minutes and go, what is this thing? What are these bones that I've stacked on the cushion today? The muscles that surround them, the thoughts that fire like fireflies inside of this head, the heart churning. This is the thing. I will sit with it. I will know it. I will fall in love with all of it. I have to. It's my responsibility. It's part of why we fear awakening, because if we wake up, we are responsible. Genuinely. Doesn't it feel right to you? The part is like, oh, I want enlightenment. And there's other part goes, yeah, you know what? Stuff's going to get real. You think it's fun? I promise it's not. Joy? Oh, yeah. Fun? Because now I'm responsible. And now I'm the one who got shot, and I'm the one holding the gun. And I never get to pretend that I'm not both of these things. I literally can never do that, because my life is completely dependent on these things. Wow. The patience of ordinary things. So thank you for being here today. Thank you for sitting in chairs that are 4 square upon the earth. Thank you for sitting on cushions that are filled with K-pop that was harvested from the K-pop plant. Plant that grows in Southeast Asia. I'm making all of that up. They used to make life preservers up. I don't know. But thank you for being in your living rooms, on your chairs at home, those folks who are zooming in. I hope the stairs support you. I hope the earth supports you. I am grateful for your practice and your presence today. And that's as much as I have. So thank you. We still have some time today, and so I'm very happy. We would all be very happy to hear thoughts, reflections, ideas about either ordinary things or about what's maybe heavy on your heart from last night. So as I say, I am not in the know, but I want to make sure this space feels welcome to hold whatever's wanting to be said for all of us. Do you have something, Barbara?
I just wanted to share, I loved your talk today, and it reminded me of a talk I had with my children. I don't remember what we were doing, but they were complaining of being bored. And so I told them, look at your placemat. And I said, I don't ever want to hear that you're bored again. You're just not using your mind. Your placemat and anything has a history, it has a potential, it has a utility, it can be used in art and literature, so it can be measured, it has a mathematical explanation and a chemical explanation, and it can be reimagined into something else. So don't ever tell me again that you're bored.
Wow, it sounds like you were ahead of the curve here as far as I'm concerned. Because chemical?
The thing is,
That never occurred to me.
so
Love that.
when I think of interconnectedness, our interconnectedness with life, I look at systems and forces. And all those are systems. They're systems that we've created or they're natural systems. And they all intertwine and they all explain us as well. So that's what made me think of that conversation with my kids.
Right. Very cool. Other folks, what wants to be said today? Please.
Thank you for your talk. I appreciate it. I also feel an affinity for objects, the objects